Hi, everybody. Welcome to Busy Living Sober. This is episode 331 with Elizabeth Chance. Busy, I'm also known as, and my guest, JF, my husband. He's here today to help me so you don't just have to listen to me. And it's episode 331. And our topic today is willingness. Willingness. And I'm going to do the ad at the beginning this week. And I want to thank SoberLink for sponsoring us. Imagine you've just gotten sober. You're working your program, checking in with a recovery coach, maintaining employment, and, well, thriving. Now imagine none of your closest family or friends believe you. I know that that's happened to a lot of people. So much trust is lost during active addiction, and it can be hard to convince loved ones that things are different, that you're different. SoberLink can help. SoberLink's remote alcohol monitoring system is designed to help you sustain a sober lifestyle while rebuilding trust with loved ones. It's small enough to fit in your purse or in your pocket and discreet enough to use in public. SoberLink's devices combine facial recognition combined with tamper detection and real-time results. So friends and family know instantly that you're sober and working towards your recovery goals. As a certified recovery coach myself, I can't think of a better tool to maintain accountability, strengthen a community, and to prove sobriety to loved ones. Make 2023 a memorable one. Visit www.soberlink.com/BLS for Busy Living Sober and sign up and receive a $50 promo code off your device. Thanks again,
That sounds like a great deal.
It's a great deal. It is a great deal. I have had somebody call me and say, can you give it to me for less than $50? I'm like, come on, dude, your sobriety is worth more than $50, don't you think? At least 60. And giving yourself peace of mind and your family members peace of mind, it's totally worth getting the device and signing up for it, I think. I know a lot of people that could have used it back in the day.
Peace of mind for the family, for sure.
For sure. So willingness. Are you willing to go? Are you willing to stay? Are you willing to go to any length? Or are you willing not to? What is that? What do you think?
I think it's willingness.
What do you think about willingness?
Willingness is that's what it takes. It doesn't take a lot of effort or anything else, but you just have to be willing to change. You have to be willing I think for me, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The key is that I have to get to the point where I'm willing to listen to somebody else instead of just myself. Because I listened to just myself for all those years and look where it got me. And that's what happened to me. I was finally willing to listen to somebody else and say, you know what? Like, what I'm doing is not working. Maybe somebody else has a better idea, because maybe these people that I see that claim they've been sober for all these years, like maybe they're onto something. And, maybe I should listen to them. That was really what it was all about.
I think it was so interesting what you just said, because I just thought about willingness because I was reading something and it made me think of being willing. And I think that we need willingness, not only in sobriety, in willingness to want to change, right? We have to change. So for me, I want to, I want to put down sugar. I just feel like it's so bad for me. And I don't mean natural sugars. I love apples and peaches and oranges and all that stuff, but like cookies and cake.
Those are not natural sugars?
They're not.
Okay, sorry.
Damn. Sorry. He loves cookies. He eats cookies. He's a cookie monster. I don't eat cookies, but he does. And luckily, I don't know why, if I've talked myself out of it, but because I've wanted to quit it for so long that maybe now I've just talked myself out of thinking that it even tastes good. I'm like, oh, that cookie's gross. But I have to be willing to say, all right, I'm going to do this today. I'm a firm believer in being willing in the day. I had not been, and I talked about this last week, I hadn't been to a 12-step meeting in person in a month. Maybe it was longer. It had been a little while. And my fellow traveler, my friend, also known as a sponsor in certain groups, said, maybe you should just try one. Maybe you should go to one again. So I was going to go last week and I wasn't willing to get my butt out of bed. I was not willing. I was not willing. I was like, I'm just laying here. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. But today I was willing. I got up. I put on my shoes. The crazy thing is I didn't have to get dressed up at all. And I just walked out the door and went.
Mhm.
And it was really great. It was really great.
So you listen to somebody else.
And I was willing.
Mhm.
And I was willing to do this. I was like driving there. I'm like, do I really want to go? Should I go to yoga? Should I go to Pilates? Should I do something else? No, I should go.
Mhm.
I should go. It's this willingness game is, I want to look up the definition actually while we're talking about it. Willingness is, let's see, I think I've talked about it before actually on the podcast.
I think we have, yeah.
I think we have too, because I think
It's a topic that comes up a lot.
Well, because I think so many people, willingness is a noun, and it is the quality or state of being prepared to do something. Readiness, the ability and willingness of workers to migrate. So what an interesting sentence they chose, but workers willing to migrate.
Mhm.
It's are we willing to go do things even though we're uncomfortable?
So I'll tell you this, you looked up willingness, look up willing because it's a verb. And that means it's an action
Okay, so
that we can take.
Okay, so look at that. Aren't we glad that we have JF with us? Because he's very good at grammar and I'm obviously not. So willing is an adjective.
It was an adjective.
It is. It's not a verb. It's an adjective.
Okay.
Inclined or favorably disposed in mind. Ready. Willing and eager to help. Prompt to act or respond. Lending a willing hand.
Mhm.
Done, born, or accepted by choice or without reluctance, a willing sacrifice, or of relating to the will or willpower of choosing, volitional. So it's really interesting. I have to say, now that we're in 2023, there's a lot of willingness, I think, to want to change things. We've been in, after COVID, I think it was so dark. It was so dark. I still walk in. I just walked in the other day with JF actually to the fresh market. And I walked in the fresh market and I kind of had a little bit of PTSD because I was like, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I remember being in COVID and everybody, and here in Florida, and you had to have a mask. And I was looking at everybody in the store and I felt like I was in a horror movie. I'm like, what is going on? There's all this darkness and all this fear over this thing that we were all going to get, and we were all going to drop dead on the streets. I felt like it was like, oh my gosh, you can't have it. It's going to kill you. It's going to kill you. And literally it was like on the streets, and you had to be willing to go and wipe off your groceries and do this stuff to the extreme. But then you had to be willing when it kind of died down, especially here very soon after it. It was not long. I can't imagine living in certain places in the world that I would have probably gone crazy. But the willingness to go, I trust that I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, I think you got to be willing to get on with life.
You have to be willing. You have to be willing. Like I have been, I in this meeting today, I saw a friend of mine that I haven't seen, and I have to be willing to change. I've been carrying around for many, 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 many years. Grudges. I've been anger, bitterness. I would say sometimes I even have a chip on my shoulder, even though you could never tell in this podcast, but I do, with other people and certain members of family and all sorts of things. And I've had this anger, and I'm like, all of a sudden this morning when I was doing my meditation, and I was doing it with this woman who's in Australia, I love her. But anyway, Anne Marie Wiley, I think is her name. I can't remember, but if you want to know, you can email me. But I get out of bed and I'm willing to do my meditation and I'm willing to write in my journal. But what I was thinking about when I was writing in my journal, like I could write in my journal, I'm angry at this, I'm angry at that, I'm angry at this, stuff that I'm totally powerless over, by the way. Everything that I'm angry about most of the time is what I'm powerless over, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's always what I'm powerless
It's
over.
always about things not going the way you want it
Not
to
way I
Or
thought they
people
were going to
not
go,
doing
not
what you
doing what
want.
I want them to do,
Right.
all these certain things that go along with this, not getting what I want. So I sat down and instead of writing that, I wrote, I am so happy. I am so lucky. I have a roof over my head. I have food in the refrigerator. I have water in my sink. And I take these things for granted, right? They talk about it in some literature, in all different literature, but we never question where the electricity comes from. It just comes, right? You just come home, you turn the lights, you paid your bill, your lights turn on, you're happy.
You never even think about it.
You don't think about it. You're like, my lights turned on.
I'm not happy or sad. I just turn them on. I don't even think about it.
I don't even think like, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? How lucky are we that we have power? There's people who don't have power.
Well, think if you were born even just 125 years ago, you'd be, oh my gosh, what is this? You guys have light in your house? Are you kidding me?
More or less a computer you carry around with you in your hand that can tell you everything that you want to know in a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to one of my dear friends this morning, and she was talking about how she's like, I had to fix something on the computer and I didn't know how to fix it. But you go to Google and it tells you everything. But you have to be willing to go to Google and say, how do I work this?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
But we have these egos, right? And I don't know if when we're little we get them or when it happens that we think we got this, we got this, we got this.
Well,
But
you
I
ever met
think
a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
Well, it definitely happens by age 2.
What happens?
We got this. That's 2-year-olds. I don't need help. Can I help you put your shoes on? No. You know how they are.
Keep going.
That's exactly how they are. And so really, when you think about willingness, I mean, to me, like I said, it all comes down to, do I want to listen to somebody else or not? That's what it's all about.
But sometimes that's yourself. But sometimes you listen to yourself and you're willing to listen to yourself in your own brain and you're not talking to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So in your own thoughts, like there's this crazy saying that says, if you want, if you keep going to your same place for answers and it's in your brain, like you're not getting anything different. Your body, I mean, at least I don't know if you can, but I can convince myself of anything I want to convince myself of.
Absolutely.
Like I'm not an alcoholic anymore. Why do I have to go to these meetings? Why do I have to do these things that I don't find comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Exactly.
What's the answer?
The answer is whatever you think you want it to be. Honestly, the truth is, I mean, when you get down to that brass tacks, like the truth is, I'm an alcoholic. That's the truth. So just like any other medical condition, am I going to treat it or not? It's that simple. So I don't have to treat it if I don't want to. I don't have to treat diabetes if I don't want to. I don't have to treat cancer if I don't want to. I don't have to treat anything if I don't want to. I don't have to treat a sore tooth if I don't want to.
If you don't want to.
Yeah.
If your tooth hurts and you don't feel like going to the dentist because you're like, I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in pain. Are you going to be willing to actually pick up the phone and call the dentist? Or does it have to get so bad that you wake up in the middle of the night with toothache and you go, oh my gosh, I have to call the dentist. I have something going on.
Isn't it funny? So for me, physical pain doesn't have to get that bad, right? But how about emotional pain?
Oh,
yeah, that has to get pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, that's just really how about, because all that emotional pain is, well, not all of it, but the vast majority of it is, as you described, it all revolves around what am I not getting that I want? Who's not doing what I want them to do? And don't they understand? And why won't they? And how come I'm not? And, I guess I need to try harder. And that's really what it is. I mean, to put it in the context of drinking, my
Why don't you put it in the context of everyday life for us
I'm just
today?
gonna make it simple.
No,
Okay,
we want to hear a real story for you, how it is emotional, and give us a
Well, then,
story of
it
how
really-
you
I
were
guess-
willing to get out of the pain. So, and maybe that doesn't pertain to alcohol. Let's hear another story.
Well, let's think. So, I mean, I'll put it in the context of my kids. Most of us have kids, you know.
No,
and-
we're talking about your kids, though.
No, I'm talking about my kids, you know, and you know, my how I've felt like I've been very disappointed over the years that they haven't done what I thought they should do, what I assumed that they would do, what I thought they were supposed to do. And you know, when they were, especially when they were younger, when they were really under my care, how I would work so hard to, you know, to get them, to try to get them to do what I wanted to do, to be what I wanted them to be, to go to the school that I wanted them to go to be the major that I wanted them to be, et cetera, and so on. You know, eventually what I came to realize was that for my own sanity and everybody else's, I need to let that go. You know,
How did you get willing to do that?
I got willing to do that because the pain got so great. You know, the task got so difficult, and the results were getting worse and worse and worse as far as I was concerned.
Were you comfortable then?
No, not at all. I mean, I had one kid that ended up in jail. That's terrible. You know, that's not what I had planned for him at all. You know, not at all. But that's what happened. You know, I'm happy to say that, you know, he turned it around, and good for him. But it wasn't, in no means was it what I had envisioned from the moment that I carried him home as a little baby. You know, it just wasn't. But I had to let it all go. I had to leave it up to God, and you know, and let God sort it out. I really did.
But were you willing to ask for help along those lines? Did you talk to anybody?
I wasn't willing to ask for help until it got so bad that that I had to, you know. I mean, that and this is the way I am. I'll be the first one to admit it, very large ego. And I had to, and it's the same for most things in my life. I had to bash my head against the wall until I just couldn't do it anymore. And then I had to ask for help. You know, but my thing is, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys that can relate to this, is like, I think, like, I don't know the answer, but I think I'm supposed to know the answer. I think I'm supposed to have the answer. I think I'm supposed to know what the thing is that needs to be done. And I can only think of what I can think of. You know, I always forget that, oh my God, like, it's an infinite universe with infinite possibilities and infinite answers. And I'm just a tiny little piece of it, you know, that's infinitesimal. And, you know, I need to tap into that. So as I've gotten older, you know, slowly but surely, I've gotten better at it, you know, slowly but surely. So, you know, it actually happens sometimes now that I have a great idea and I bounce it off to somebody else before I actually put it into action.
You know, a thing that I've also had opinions about things that I wasn't willing to investigate. So I just had opinions, and I didn't know what, I don't know if you can relate to this. So I would have opinions, like for instance, ADD. Or ADHD. And I had opinions about it. Like, this was just the way you were, and this is the way. And then, you know, Mel Robbins just came out and said, she got diagnosed at 47 as being ADHD. And I know that I have ADHD, but I've never dealt with it, and I've never gone on medication. But because of that, I can see for so long, I'd be like, why would you go on drugs if you don't have to? Why would you go on medication? And I can see why parents put their kids on medication now, because why would you, if it's available and it can help them get to the next level, then why not do it? Why not help them with their ADHD? And I have to be willing to look at different things and be willing to have an open mind. That is what I have to be willing to do.
I think that's what we're really talking about.
I think
The
it's
open mind.
really getting to that place where you're like, life isn't just black and white. And I was actually talking to somebody else about about somebody, and they were talking about how that person was just could only see black and white. And I was very black and white thinking when I was drinking. I was 37 when I got sober. So I don't want to say I was young because I wasn't that young, but I was very black and white. I believed only one way. Like you could only do skin a cat one way. I hate to use that frame because I don't believe you can skin a cat, but you can only do certain things a certain way. And when I've given myself the ability to step back and go, wait a minute, there's different ways to handle situations, right? There's different scenarios. There's different, as you just mentioned, I think of only like A to Z. I don't even think that many, let's be honest. I think of a good outcome, what I want my outcome to be, or a bad outcome to be. I don't think of all the other different colors that are in there between the good and the bad. I only think one way or this way. And I think that if we get to this place that we say, you know what, I don't know. And I am willing to investigate different ways and different scenarios. And I have to sometimes say, I was wrong and I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. We all need to do that.
But sometimes it's going in. I mean, I said I was wrong and I was sorry to someone, and they were like, yeah, good for you. Mhm.
That's okay.
They were like, good for you. I'm glad you're sorry, but I'm not accepting your apology. You need to do this, this, and that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do those things, but I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And I think it takes willingness to forgive. It's so interesting because when I was reading this other thing, it was talking about willingness is literally just having a thought of being willing. So just like I said when I was walking, like when I was writing this morning, like either I'm going to write good things or I'm going to write bad things. It's my choice. It's someone else's choice. It's my choice. Do I need to walk around being pissed off at everybody forever? Or do I finally get to this place where I'm like, I'm not so pissed off anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so pissed off. It happened the way it was supposed to happen.
Feels good to let it go, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be pissed.
No.
I don't need to be upset.
No.
I don't need to take things so fucking seriously, excuse my French. And not everybody's out to get me. And that's huge
That is.
because it's been a thing for me for a long time. I don't know if it's because of the way I was raised or if what it was, but I was always had this thought that like somebody was out to get me. Like who's gonna out to get me? I don't know. Nobody's out to get me.
Nobody's out to get you.
No, and it really limited my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really, really hard thing to deal with for a long, long time.
I'm sure. I can only imagine. Because it's so hard. I mean, for me, I need to be, humble enough to realize that because you were talking about the good things or the bad things. I imagine the good outcome or the bad outcome. And I've had to be humble enough to realize that just because I think it's good or just because I think it's bad doesn't mean it's true. And if you look back, because we always get we get the luxury of time when we look back at difficult times and difficult situations and say, oh my gosh, that thing that I thought was the worst thing that ever happened, like thank God that happened. That turned out to be the best thing that ever happened. Like for me, and the way I can relate to that was, I had a job that I put a lot of time, a lot of effort into many, many, many years. And I worked really hard at it. And I lost that job. And I thought, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Like my life will never be as good as it was when I had that job. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. Boo hoo, boo hoo, boo hoo. And of course, everybody knows what's going to happen now because it's obvious. I ended up getting a better job, you know, and it wasn't a job that I ever thought that I would get or imagined that I would get. But I got it, and it turned out to be a much better job. So, you know, I went from the worst thing that ever happened to one of the best things that ever happened, but who knew in the moment? I didn't know, you know, if I knew now what I knew then. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to be in tough times and say, I got to let it go. This is not going the way I wanted to. Oh my gosh, it's not going the way. Oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. But, you know, it's not. You know, it's just not going to be bad. It's
Just
going to be
let it
different.
happen. It's going to be different, and it's uncomfortable when you're going through the
Oh, it's
different.
terrible. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that's it. You got to let it go.
gotta let it go.
And I have to, that's where I really have to be willing, you know, is I got to be willing to have faith and trust in something greater than me. And that for you, that could be God, it can be the universe, it can be Gaia, it could be fate, it could be whatever it is. But, you know, I truly believe there is some grand design and some grand plan and some power greater than me that watches over. And like you said, in the grand scheme of things, I've always had a roof over my head. I've always had food in the refrigerator. I've always had a refrigerator to have food in, you know, on and on and on, like so much more than most people on this earth. All these things I take for granted. And I really don't have anything to worry about except for what I choose to worry about.
Thanks, JF, for coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. So, be willing today. I just read a book where it was like crazy. The guy like had this crazy accident. He faked his death, and then his life totally changed. And you would think that would have been the worst thing in the world, but he had no idea. So none of us have any idea. So just get willing. Be willing. It's all going to be okay. Just believe that in your heart. And reach out to me at elizabethchance.com. Very easy. ELIZABETH at ELIZABETHCHANCE.com. I will respond. I promise. But being willing under any and all circumstances is number one. Get willing today. Okay. Get willing.
All right. I am willing.
Are you willing?
I'm willing.
Are we willing? We're willing. We're willing. We're willing. We're willing to do it. We're willing to be and say, I'm going to change this because I'm sick and tired of being uncomfortable. And I am willing to step out there and do something I never thought I would ever be able to do. And I'm going to do it anyway, even though I'm scared and your brain is lying to you. Just do it anyway. Just get willing. Take care. Bye.